Hello and welcome to the next session of Axial's Talking Point videos. I'm Craig Bootherstone, the Security Technical Manager at Axial Systems, and today I'm going to talk to you about Axial's collaborative security message. So on the board to my left we have a typical customer environment of security technologies. This list is not exhaustive, it is purely an indication of some of the technologies that customers use. Customers may have more, customers may have less. So let's start and look at some of the technologies that we've got on the board. So if we start off with endpoint security. So historically endpoint security meant AV signatures, and that was pretty much it. It's now been pushed forward. We now have multitude and plethora of different endpoint technologies, whether that be endpoint encryption, whether that removable media control, whether that be data loss prevention, host IPS, and so on and so on. What we also now have as an endpoint is mobile devices. So whether that be iPads, iPhones, Android devices, and also non-Windows operating systems that we need to make sure that we are covered. So moving down, we have firewall. Whether that's a traditional stateful firewall, just managing things like access control lists, or whether we have customers moved on to the next generation firewall with the web application awareness, the real-time user-based policies, and the endpoint integration. Further down we have IPS or intrusion prevention systems, which can be deployed in some instances as a bolt onto a firewall or a dedicated appliance in itself. So looking for malicious activity within the network, looking for unauthorized traffic within the network, looking for command and control type activity. Further down we have network access control, so enabling users to communicate with the network, whether that be a partner, whether that be a contractor, giving them access to the resource that they need. So not giving them full access, but giving them access to the resources that they need to operate, and in an authenticated and a controlled fashion. At the bottom of the list we've got DLP or data loss prevention. So what we need here is to look after our IP, our crown jewels. We need to understand where it is, who's got access to it, and if it's leaving the organisation, whether accidentally or intentionally. Further down we have vulnerability assessment, vulnerability management. So understanding what risks exist within the environment, whether that be a misconfigured router, whether that be a default password, whether that be a missing Oracle patch. We need to understand and get a baseline of how the business is from a risk perspective. It's also used for compliance regulations. Web security, so really enabling the users to access resources but in a secure fashion. So they can be allowed to go to Facebook in a controlled fashion. They can go to Facebook, but they can't access the chat within Facebook. They can't post messages to Facebook, but they can look at their inbox. Email security, so again, preventing spam, preventing malicious activity. Email is the path of least resistance for a hacker. You know, a spear phishing attempt with a link to a dodgy website. We need to control that type of activity. But we also use it as an enabling tool to apply emails and send emails securely and confidentially to our partners or customers using encryption. And the final piece of the diagram is the remote access. So twin closely with network access control, we're enabling users to access our internal resources from an external source, whether that be a coffee shop, whether that be a home user, or in a hotel, for instance, and we make sure that we authenticate them in a secure fashion using a multi-factor authentication token to prove that who they say they are is actually who they are. All of these technologies offer great value to the customer, but also come with challenges. Challenges being a proliferation of vendors, proliferation of technologies, proliferation of management consoles. We also need to look at the operational and implementation costs, be that staff, be that power, be that licensing, be that storage, be that rack space. There's also a training element. Our staff need to be educated on how to actually use these products efficiently. What we also see is a distinct lack of integration between the technologies. If I find an email contains a malicious link or a malicious code, do I automatically send the information to my web security? And in turn, do I also send the information about the IP address to my firewall? knowing it's a known bad actor, and then block that communication. If I suddenly see terabytes of data being exfiltrated via HTTP, do I know what's actually causing this? Is this user acting suspiciously, or is it intended behaviour? Or is it the fact that we know that the endpoint has been compromised and this is malicious activity? So all these technologies are very good, but customers are now realising they are facing a losing battle. They will be breached. So they're now focusing on, still obviously very heavily on mitigation, but also on detection and a quicker time to resolution after the breach. So how can we enable customers to get most out of their security investment? As a starting point and a method to join the dots, Axial have assisted companies in delivering intelligent SIM solutions. So we deploy these solutions to enable rapid analytics from disparate data sources. We pull log, flow and event data from these technologies and combine with this with external threat intelligence to correlate this information and give contextual understanding of what happened, when, to whom, by what method, and who else has been affected. Based on this intelligence and the sharing of data across platforms, we can apply automated actions via integrations with existing protection methods to proactively block or alert on malicious activity. We can also gain historical information to understand what happened in the previous 5, 10, 15 minutes and to understand what was happening prior to the attack. This is by no means a silver bullet. So what we need to be able to do in the event of a successful attack is to find the root cause as quickly as possible. This is where security analytics comes in. The ability to record and replay real network traffic to forensically examine what happened before, during and after the breach. Combining this with endpoint forensic intelligence to show what devices show signs of infection. This provides much better data for understanding what attackers might have done. You can replay the attack to see exactly what happened and what was lost. This provides the kind of evidence essential for tracing the root cause of an attack, as well as formal investigation. So to summarise, we can enable customers to gain a better view of their overall security posture by integrating the technologies, allowing products to talk bi-directionally to each other, to share threat and intelligence data, to proactively block attacks, to minimise and contain the damage of a breach, and to find the root cause of an attack faster. If you found this video interesting and you would like to find out more, please contact us. We'd be happy to help.